The human brain is the most powerful tool in the world. In today's world, we rely on phones, computers, and all this technology. But when you're facing real challenges like depression, grief, or death, you can't Google your way out of it. You're on your own. Sure, you might have a therapist or a good friend to talk to, but they can't be with you every second of the day. There are 24 hours in a day, and in many of those hours, you're alone with your thoughts. Your brain will speak to you, trying to pull you in different directions. If you don't take control of your mind, it will control you. You have to be the one in control. You need to tell your brain where you want to go and how you want to get there. You must direct your thoughts, your focus, and your energy. If you don't, it's over. For me, when I faced challenges, I had to ask myself, how am I going to make this work? The only thing I knew at the time was that hard work was the answer. That's what I had always been taught. If you want to achieve anything, you've got to work hard for it. There were times when I struggled, like when I couldn't understand a paragraph I was trying to memorize for a test. I read it again, but I still didn't get it. So I wrote it down and wrote it again and again. Eventually, I got it. The same thing happened when I was learning to swim. I'm negatively buoyant, so I had to keep going back, trying over and over again. Eventually, my mind adapted. My mind realized he's not going to stop. So it began to figure things out because I didn't give myself any other option. There was no quitting, no turning back. When my alarm clock went off, I didn't hit snooze. I just got up and went back at it, every single time. The mind is powerful, but it also knows when you're not fully committed. If you're not being truthful with yourself, your brain will know. When I was training to become a Navy SEAL, people asked me how I did it. They couldn't understand how I survived 18 months of training when the program usually only lasts 6 months. I went through Hell Week 3 times in 1 year, something nobody else had done. How did I do it? I created a new normal for myself. At one point in my life, I lived in a place that cost $7 a month. It was a horrible situation, but I got used to it because I didn't know any different. It became my normal. Later, we moved to a place that cost $236 a month, and I thought, I never want to go back to that $7 a month place. But if I had to go back, I would adjust. My mind would accept it as the new normal. That's what I did during Navy SEAL training. After the first round, my body was breaking down, and I knew it would be a long journey. I told myself, this is my new normal. My mind accepted that every day I would suffer. It became part of the routine, like putting on a suit to go to work. Every day was painful, broken bones, stress fractures, shin splints. But my mind adapted. It toughened up. When people asked how I ran with broken shins and feet, the answer was simple. My mind had accepted that suffering was part of the deal. In SEAL training, you're constantly in pain, and if you don't accept that, you'll break. But if you do, your mind gets stronger. You adapt. There was no way out for me. I had no choice but to keep going. I embraced the suffering. For a while, I became the embodiment of hell. I became the CEO of suffering. That was my mindset, and it got me through the toughest times. I immersed myself in the pain until I owned it. Back when I weighed 297 pounds, I was terrified. I was fat, out of shape, and trying to become a Navy SEAL. The scariest thing to me, even now, was that the version of myself back then could have been my reality for the rest of my life. I thought I was trying hard at the time. I thought that was all I was capable of. But years later, after losing 106 pounds and graduating SEAL training, I realized I hadn't even come close to reaching my full potential. Most people don't understand how much they're capable of. We have no idea what's inside us until we push ourselves to the limit. We don't know what we're truly capable of until we make trying hard our new normal. That's the only way to find out what we can do. People hear my story and think I'm sadistic, but I've figured out how the brain works. I was a scared kid. I had no foundation, no solid ground to stand on, but through research and relentless effort, I built myself up. Now, I know that when things get tough, I can tap into a part of my mind that most people never reach. I've learned to push myself beyond what I thought was possible. When you realize that you can run on broken legs, you tap into a different kind of power. It's not something you can do all the time, but when you need it, it's there. When you're alone at 3:30 in the morning, duct taping your feet because they're broken, and you're getting ready to go through one of the hardest training programs in the world, you realize something important. Even though you're broken, you're still in the fight. That gives you strength. When things get bad, most people's minds start telling them to quit. But if you can shift your perspective, if you can look at your situation and think, I'm broken, but I'm still here, you gain power. You start to realize that your limits are further away than you thought. When you're in the midst of suffering, your brain doesn't think about past pain or anger. It's focused on the present. Anger fades away when you're truly suffering because your brain goes into survival mode. It's not about proving people wrong anymore. It's about survival. And in those moments, you have to dig deep. You have to go down to the very core of who you are, to a place so deep that nothing can destroy it. Most people never reach that point because they don't spend enough time getting to know themselves. They don't put in the work to figure out who they really are and what they want. You can't just hand someone the answer. They have to find it for themselves. For me, it was about wanting to be someone I could be proud of. I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to be someone I respected when I looked in the mirror. I had been so disappointed in myself for so long. Accountability was a key part of my journey. I had to hold myself accountable for my actions every single day. Accountability is a form of suffering because it forces you to confront your weaknesses and your failures. But that's how you grow. In the end, finding peace doesn't come first. A lot of people think you have to find peace before you can start living your life. But for me, peace came after I put in the work. It came after I went through the suffering, the trials, and the tribulations. You can't avoid the hard stuff if you want to find peace. You have to go through it. Peace comes from knowing you've given your best effort, from holding yourself accountable, and from facing life's challenges head-on. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And once you realize what you're capable of, once you find that strength inside yourself, you'll never be the same.